tell us, who is Christine?
A young woman who's getting up around sustainability and why we need to be concerned around sustainability.
I do know that you are a recipient of the Zuri Awards. How important is it for that recognition?
Having that recognition gives you a pat in the back that yes, you're going through these challenges, but you're going in the right direction. You're making an impact. You're seeing what you're doing is important. What you're doing is necessary. It's needed right now in the society as it is. And I personally believe everybody was born for a reason. And that reason sometimes might not come out of just you having your own ambition. The theme this year for International Women's Day has been Inspire Inclusion. So you're trying to include the women, but how do you do it? Sustainability is not just a beautiful word we use here and there. There's a lot of activities. Everybody resonates better with you when you care for the planet.
Do actually people, any person walking down the street, do they understand what the SDGs are? Hi Christine, how are you?
Hi John, I'm good. How are you?
Not bad. Nice to catch you once again.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Beyond Impact podcast. Mm-hmm. Please tell us, who is Christine? What does Christine do?
Okay, Christine Amira is a young, passionate lady, very ambitious, but also very impact-driven. The ambition is impact-driven. That also now tells into what I do every day. So I currently serve as the Marketing and Sustainability Manager for Wilo, for Middle and South Africa region. That entirely is Sub-Saharan Africa in the normal terms. And I'm also such a proponent of women empowerment. So I actually also run Women Today show, a safe space for women to inspire, encourage, and motivate one another. Yeah.
All right, good. You wear many hats. So let's start off maybe with Women Today. And, just tell us about what Women Today is about. And I do know that you are really pushing in terms of making sure that gender equality is one of the bits that is built and realized then within your show and even beyond. So maybe you can walk us through that particular journey, the inspiration behind starting off the show for, I think it's been there for a couple of years, and to where it is right now. What are the achievements and so on? Please just
okay, that question is fully packed.
Yes.
Where do I start? So Women Today show began when I identified a gap in terms of gender equality, which is mostly women in the workspace. I realized that there's women at the top and there's women at the grassroots level, but there's no linkage in between, and they're not conversing, they're not talking. So unless I work for a woman leader, then maybe that's the way that I'll get any sort of mentorship into my leadership space, or maybe to reach my fullest potential. So this inspiration began when I was in Kigali, Rwanda, working. And as you all know, Rwanda is one of the countries that have really promoted women empowerment. We have women in parliament, we have women leading such big government agencies and institutions. And it inspired me. But then I realized when I walk into rooms, most of the time, I would be surrounded still by men, right? And I'm wondering, where are the ladies? And I would see the ladies are there, but they're quiet. They're at the grassroots level, but some are middle level, but they're quiet. They're not feeling inspired enough to walk into rooms as much. And then I realized that there will be a gap, not just now, but in the future. What happens to the future generation? And there's so many of the women who also aspire to be leaders, but they don't know how. They don't know the challenges that come along with it. They don't know the joys. They don't really aspire to reach. So that's how I started it. I also wanted to be in a space of being mentored. Like I wanted more for my career and self, and I want to converse with a woman. And I would be like, maybe I would go to an office and ask this MD, how did you do this? Or what did you do this? But then I'm confident enough to, what about those who don't have that confidence? So I started a show. I brought in women leaders, and that's how it began.
And that was still in Rwanda, no?
That was still in Rwanda. So I began it in Rwanda, and then now came back to Kenya, I think around 2018, and continued with the conversation. I started it just so that I can drive women-led conversation, so women leadership. But then it has now grown into now maybe also promoting a space for networking. So I would do events here and there. And then also a bit of impact. I think you remember a time when we were trying to also do a book drive, and Isuzu was kind enough to offer books for a library in Mathare. So there was that where I was looking at more impact. What more more can I do with the platform? And I guess there have been many highlights with it, and then there have also been downsides, but that's part of the journey.
Let's call them experiences, right?
Experiences. And the tagline, the interesting part is the tagline, or rather the theme behind Women Today show is own your journey. So sometimes I remind myself that I keep telling women to own their journey. I also need to own mine. Yeah. So that's basically Women Today show. Yeah.
And so far, in terms of some of those highs, we can start with celebrating some of those particular wins. I do know that you are a recipient of the Zuri Awards. You can highlight about that and what that meant for you as well in that particular moment.
Yeah, that's a good question, John. So with Women Today show, I guess it also helped me grow in my career in ways I might not be able to describe today. And it built me to have a network of women leaders here and there. And it built my visibility also to be seen in terms of my career as a communications specialist, and also now, of course, a young woman who's getting up around sustainability and why we need to be concerned around sustainability. So I believe it was the year 2021 where I was recognized as a media honoree for Zuri Awards, and that award in itself was amazing. I would say it was a good achievement in terms of the fact that I've been working hard to highlight women leaders, to show women what they can reach towards. And then there came the opportunity for me to also be recognized for that work, where I'm highlighting women and bringing and driving conversations around empowerment. And that was a beautiful achievement, let me call that. I still have the trophy in my house also till today. I put it every time to see it, to remind me why I do what I do. And what is your next question? Sorry.
No, I mean, you've answered it.
Yeah.
But then, in terms of, you've talked about how that made you feel, but how important also is it for you with, you started off an idea, a concept, you had seen it way back when you were working in Rwanda, then coming back and amplifying that back home. How important is it for that recognition? For is it like a pat on the back? Is it an encouragement that you need to do better? Does it tell you that what you're in the right direction? Just keep on pacing up and keep on moving.
That's actually it, John. That's actually it. When I started doing that, like highlighting women leaders and highlighting women, I didn't even know the impact that I have, even on them as a person. Besides the fact that I'm also trying to encourage mentorship, I'm also trying to encourage women to listen to one another and to be inspired by each other's journey. But then, yes, as you say, having that recognition gives you a pat in the back that yes, you're going through these challenges, but you're going in the right direction. You're making an impact. You're seeing what you're doing is important. What you're doing is necessary. It's needed right now in the society as it is. And throughout the journey, you suffer what we call imposter syndrome. That maybe I'm just off here and there.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just too ambitious. Maybe But this recognition really, it's a pat in the back. At the same time, it's also it's also encouraging for you to continue going on because you're on the right path.
All right. And I mean, from the conversations you've had with amazing women, I followed your show for a couple of years, very inspirational. What are some of the highs that you can say, if you can tailor all these women that you've had a chance to have a conversation with, what's their constant ingredient for success? What do they say? What has been a constant message from them saying that for you to get to where we have been, this is what we feel that would be? It doesn't have to be the main meal, but it is an ingredient towards that particular success, from the voices, from the conversations that you've had over the years.
Yeah, a special ingredient, I would say, I wouldn't call it a special ingredient. I think what has been special about all these women, and from what I see them achieve, is the fact that they have just kept going on. I think they have moved on with what they have to do, and they have achieved despite all odds. It's just the idea that they keep going on. Whether they are discouraged, whether they don't make it this time, whether they wanted to and they couldn't achieve, all I have seen from them is that they just keep going on. Some have struggled with work-life balance, motherhood, family, but they have gone on. Others have been in a space where there's no women as leaders, there's no mentor, they're the only one in the room, in boards and things like that, but they just go on. I think that's just their drive always to keep going, to keep moving. And I think they derive also another advantage I see with how they have managed to maneuver life is they keep deriving strength from one another, knowingly or unknowingly. Because when you speak to each one of them, they have had a woman leader who has supported them somewhere, or a male also. There are also male mentors that have held their hand through it all. So I feel like they also just don't over depend on their own self ambition as well. They keep also drawing strength from their community and their space, and that has been their secret. But they just keep going on, and I think I love that about them. And I guess being in similar spaces with such ladies also inspires me to just go on. And they are not limited in their minds. That's another thing. They're not limited in their minds to what they can be or what they can achieve. Today they would launch an idea at work. Tomorrow they're doing the same or advancing, and they keep improving their skills. So there's a lot that they do in terms of their own internal work, but then they just keep going on. They don't count today's achievement as everything. They keep saying, oh, so today I became MD, now I want to be director. Or today I became and it's not just for the accolades, it's just the idea that they want to keep doing more and more and more and more and more, to inspire, to open spaces for others, to make the society a better place, to make their workplace more conducive. So there's a lot that they keep doing, and they just keep going on. So I drive a lot of strength from that as well.
That's good. And I mean, I know you to be a very splendid student of communication for development. And how important is it for that particular message from you, from the journey that you've traveled, and also from the inspiring stories that you've had from these amazing women? How important is that particular message to reach that young girl somewhere in a village somewhere? How important is that particular message to that young girl somewhere who's looking tomorrow and saying, wow, my life is, my life is just this, And how important is that?
I guess, let me just also talk about it from a woman's perspective, because we are labeled the nurturers. We are building the generation for tomorrow. You don't want to live and die because that's our fate. And you leave the world as you came. You always want to make the world a better place for everyone. And the world is evolving. Things are changing. I guess before me was my mother, who was trying to mentor me, and she wasn't from a digital world as it is today. Now I get into this space and there's a digital world. And then now the ones who are coming in also are going to face a different world altogether. But then despite all the changes that happen, there are things that stand the same: values, character, ambition, drive, mental health, psychological health, safety, and all those things. Access to all the facilities that can be, the potential that everybody needs to know that they were not just born for no reason. So there's a lot of messaging that needs to get to the young woman today, to aspire them to make the generation or the world today a better place, to take care of them, their families, the environment, to take care of themselves as a human being, to achieve their fullest potential. I personally believe everybody was born for a reason. And that reason sometimes might not come out of just you having your own ambition. It's important for every woman to believe that they have a purpose, and they need to lead up to that. And if you're talking about sustainability also in essence, they say more than half of the population in the world is women. Yes. And that is and Africa, just to be specific, has a larger quotient of women, young women. I think our population is largely youth, so like between 14 to 35. If we're trying to build generations for the future, we're trying to protect the world, the systems, and everything else, we need to focus on these women, on these young women. We need to make the world a better place for them, and also make them believe that they need to sustainably grow with us, so that we can continue. You can almost lose. I don't know how to say it, but basically for the safety of our world, we need to focus on the young woman, and the young woman needs to believe. So we need to focus on them, I guess, for us to achieve sustainable development goals. We can't sideline that side of the women.
I mean, we'll go to the sustainable development goals, and in terms of how you're working to towards the achievement of this but I want to go back to that young girl. Is it enough for just saying that you have to believe you can be good, and it is possible, it can? Is that enough to push her to where she needs to be?
Never. I think to equip a woman, and not just women, because I also care for the male gender. It's just that I'm a woman, so because I relate to the ladies, I tend to do women's show and women's talks. But it's never enough to just that's like, I don't know. It's never enough to just talk to a lady and tell them you can. It's not practical. You can speak, but then there's also the action. You need to give this lady the tools, the right tools. Sometimes it's access to the education. Sometimes it's to fund them, provide food for them, and shelter. Sometimes it's you give them entrepreneurial skills. There's a lot to do, but it's not enough to just speak. They'll believe, and you let someone go. That's just I think one element, but then there's a lot that needs to be done, of course, to promote gender equality, to promote women empowerment, and it's also a conversation that is a whole broad topic around how we can do this. There's different ways. The theme this year for International Women's Day, or even International Women's History Month, has been Inspire Inclusion. So you're trying to include the women, but how do you do it? There's different ways. One way is to level up their mind, but then there's also the investing in them, right? You have to invest in them. They are part of the economy. In fact, if you invest in women, then every country will never suffer poverty as much as as much as we do as it is. So there's a lot. We talk about water and women. We live in a society today where I can pick up a phone call and I do everything on my phone, and everything is digital. I can access water. I can call a water service provider, and they'll bring in bottled water to my house. But there are still women who are walking kilometers just to fetch water. So it's not enough for me to go to their community and tell them, you need water. You can do it. You can get water one day. No, there's a lot, and there's so many stakeholders to be involved to make sure that this woman will one day access that phone, access water on their tap, get clean water. It's not enough for me to do that. It's just one way, but there are many other channels.
I mean, there's an old term, sorry, I think it's an old as time. I've heard it since I was a young boy, that women are their own worst enemies. Have you experienced this? What do you think about it? Is it true? Is it not true?
I think it's a personality issue with people and how they experience things, because maybe my life has been, if you're asking about my own experience, maybe my life has been graceful. Because look at me, I started Women Today show. I approach women leaders, right? And let me tell you, they are quick. At first, I suffered lack of confidence, like, oh my God, a whole MD, a whole CEO, will they accept just me? Who am I thinking to be to sit with this lady and ask them questions? But the way they are eager to accept this call, the way they are eager to sit with me, and even after that, they still want conversation. I wouldn't say that all women are enemies for themselves. I think there's a lot of that has been put into the minds of young women, I guess society-wise in different levels, and I understand why they would say that, and I understand why but it's not like that. If anyone has that mentality, then they're just limiting themselves, because there are a lot of women who have made it out there. And even as I started the show, I realized these women leaders also want an outlet to speak out. They just can't create it. They wouldn't start a YouTube channel just so that they can talk to us. It's hard. They're too busy, right? But when you are young and you want their knowledge, they're willing to share. When you want the experience, they're willing to share. And I'm even more than glad to know that most of these women leaders are now becoming coaches. They're taking in courses to become leadership coaches, executive coaches. And with that, they're trying to mentor young women. They're taking up more of this and that. So I don't really believe that women are the enemies of themselves. And I guess I am also one of the women to say that I started a women's show, and I'm having so much support from my friends as well, from my community, and it's nobody's blocking anyone. It's only me to block myself. Yeah.
So what do you say to those ones who probably feel shy to go to for mentorship, for example, to a lady, to a woman, and they feel that it is harder to actually go through that? I mean, in summary, what would you actually say to that? Because they're there. I mean, that's we've heard that. You've heard that since you were young.
Yeah.
You've heard that probably even from your mother, and so on and so forth. My grandmother was very profound of also saying that as well. So that's that. Yeah. So is it a personality attribute that maybe they've been unlucky in terms of the people they've gone up to try and seek mentorship and help?
I guess experiences define us, and sometimes our experiences, we pass on our experiences without knowing sometimes. But then what I would advise a young lady who's trying to seek mentorship, you see that feeling you're saying you're feeling, that means you haven't tried. Experience it for yourself, right? Try. Let that person say no, but you tried, right? And if they're not willing to be your mentor, then look for another. It means that was not meant to be the way it is. Look for somebody who will be receptive, and maybe what I can say is sometimes it's, I don't know how to, familiarity brings contempt, bridges, what do they say? Maybe it's you being in this, women who have been in the same space, within the same, I don't know how to put it, like you can't be with someone every day and not have conflicts, let me put it like that. So that familiarity could be the reason why some women will say, other women don't like me, I don't think they mean good. But it's also because there's such familiarity around some topics, and when that conflict happens, you assume it's just a women's issue. Try and also be in rooms with men, and you'll see you'll have conflict as well. Will you say that men also, it's just a personality experience thing, and I wouldn't want to carry it forward. No, I wouldn't want to propose
then it starts just with you, and how you're able to see everything. So we'll switch gears a bit.
But I would say it's good for women to learn to be more, it's just a personality. You see, I'm also inspiring women to work on themselves inwards, and also as part of the process. I would say it's more of build your social skills, build your way of approaching someone. Let everyone's interaction with you also feel like, let that woman not feel like you're just using her. Let that other person you're trying to relate with not just feel like it's, like how you relate with someone matters. And maybe that's why I took communication as a skill, because I realized I need people and I want to relate with people, but I want to leave every situation kinder than I left, or maybe just somebody feels better after I've talked to them. So I think it's also sometimes about someone's approach, and if you're trying to get a mentor, don't go as if it's by force. You owe me, because you're a woman leader now. You have to, you must. No, it doesn't. Nobody owes you anything in this world today. You just have to decide, to ask for help when need, and you can have a specific need. If you say, I'm looking for a mentor, okay, what exactly are you trying to grow? Sometimes a lady wouldn't know. Are you trying to be a leader? Are you trying to be an entrepreneur? Do you have a specific? You just want a mentor. But you have to know what for, and what are you trying to improve within yourself and your life, before you cancel out another woman for not helping you, yeah.
That's good. That's really good. All right. So I'll switch we'll switch gears a bit, and let's talk about the work that you're doing at Wilo. And you're the marketing and sustainability manager for Sub-Saharan Africa for Wilo. First of all, who is a sustainability manager?
That's a good question. And I guess the
and of course, in that light, then what does Wilo do? And
okay. I'll give a little bit of background.
That's okay.
So Wilo is a water pumps and pump systems manufacturing company. The origin is German, so it's a German company that began 150 years ago.
Wow.
So you can see already that they have the experience, the technical know-how, years in, years out. But then it comes to 2015, UN releases United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And then it comes to 2018. This is years after Wilo began. Wilo signed a UN compact. A UN compact, basically I would say, is like you are committing yourself to care for certain sustainable development goals.
As a corporate?
It's for corporates, yes, an organization. So literally you're committing yourself to care for certain SDGs, and it's not, I wouldn't say it's a trend. It's not, sometimes it looks like it's just trendy to say sustainability, but there's a lot involved. And Wilo, for example, let me put it as Wilo in terms of what sustainability is and what sustainable development goals are and what a sustainability manager is. It's not just a beautiful thing we say so that it's, we care for the world, so love us and
so
buy
it's just
our
a buzzword,
products.
yeah?
It's not sometimes people use it as a buzzword, and it's a way to get more consumers to care. And sometimes it's good to do that because once you care for sustainability, your marketplace also starts feeling like, they can relate with you. But then, no, there's a lot of work involved. For Wilo, we have something called a Sustainability Council, right? And this is for all the other continents as well. So Wilo is represented in many countries, over 80 countries around the world. And then we are also in different continents. So I'm from the African continent and I represent and I'm part of the Sustainability Council. We meet regularly. We try and see how else can we improve. We have 7 of the 17 SDG goals that we care about. There's SDG 6 because we're in the water sector, which is around caring for water, like access to water for all. We have SDG 8, which talks about decent work and economic growth. Wilo is, of course, providing jobs to a lot of people. We have over 8,500 employees. Now I think we had 9,000. When I joined, we were 8,500. Now I think we had 9,000. This is 5 years later. We have that is SDG 8. We have SDG 9 that talks about industries and innovation. We are known to be digital pioneers, and digitalism is also a way of protecting the environment as well. We have SDG 12, which will be about sustainable cities. We have SDG 13 about climate action. We have SDG 17 about partnerships for development. I don't know if I'm missing any of those, but there are supposed to be 7 of them. And we have one, sorry, at 12 I think I miss whatever the number. 11 should be sustainable cities, and 12 is around responsible use of or consumption, basically. So there's a lot with all those. If I could just maybe briefly talk about the ambition. So within the Sustainability Council, we have ambitions, right? We have what we call Ambition 2025, which forms our sustainability strategy as well as our corporate strategy. So now our corporate strategy is our sustainability strategy. So it has become the core of our business. We have targets, right? So as a manufacturing company, by 2025, we need to reduce the CO2 emissions to the world by 50 tons. We need to reduce 50 tons carbon emissions. We talk about water, access to water. We're trying to provide 100 million people with access to clean water by 2025. We talk about recycling, and of course, because we are in the industrial part of business. Our major part of business is manufacturing. There's a recycling of products as well. You can't keep using all these hard metals. It's not good, and then you throw away to the environment. We have targets around employees and society. So there's like a lot for us to achieve, and now we continuously work towards that. So as a sustainability manager, my work in Africa right now is to align those goals in Africa, right? I guess within the Africa context, we are not directly manufacturing, we are assembling. In Kenya, we are assembling. In South Africa, we are assembling. We talk about the other countries where we have sales offices and things like that. We are really working hard to, even within the assembly plant, reduce carbon emissions. For example, now within our office facility, we have the use of solar, with the group as well, from the headquarters in Germany. We have the use of solar as backup. We don't depend on the grid per se. Here it's Kenya Power, but there it's a different organization altogether. We depend on that, and now we've gone even deeper into green hydrogen. So there's a lot involved. So sustainability is not just a beautiful word we use here and there. There's a lot of activities, and we're working really hard. Wilo acquired companies just so that we're able to advance the idea of giving access to clean drinking water. In Africa, as it is, about 2 billion people lack access to clean water. That's a huge number. The population of Africa is, I think, 1.4 or something like that. So there's in the world 2 billion lacking water. Population of Africa 1.4. If you look at the numbers, you're thinking this is crazy. There's a lot, and Wilo just targets at least by 2025 to reach 100 million people, and then of course we continue advancing from that there. So I can speak over and over and over, but you
that's for sure. I mean, you're clearly very passionate about that. That's the reason then you're the sustainability manager for Wilo. But then how important is it for corporates, organizations, to be able to be aligned to the sustainability development goals, and actually sustainability in totality?
I'll keep it simple. Sustainability to me, even as a word, if I describe it, is I want to make sure that every resource I use, I do it well. And I have to look at it in the long term, right? So every corporate needs to think about why and how they should care for sustainability if only they would like to be relevant for the rest of their lives. See, a company like Wilo, for example, has been there 150 years. That's pretty old, if you ask me. But if we want to continue being relevant, we want to make an impact for not just now, but generations to come. We have to care for sustainability. So if you're in a corporate world and you would love to get into the sustainable space, that's the way to go if you want to stay relevant for future generations or years to come. Because now
and
there's
also
regulations.
It's going to be true to your customers or to people who are
you have to be true to customers, and that's the thing. Customers are demanding more of that sustainability part. There's regulators, policies that are there now that you have to care for, and everybody resonates better with you when you care for the planet, you care for the world. Right now, maybe in Africa we are not as consumer conscious about some things. You just buy what is sometimes cheaper and what is affordable, and that's very much understandable. But there are in the other countries in the world, in Europe, where people will really care for what kind of product you've written in your ingredients and the packaging that you've used, and there are those kind of concerns that somebody would have, and there are different sustainability networks that you say no, we really we are not going to buy that product because they don't do this, they don't, boycotting everything. So it's important to care for sustainability, if you ask me.
And that then leads me to another question. We recently, as Beyond Impact, did a case study, a survey, and it was about, do actually people, any person walking down the street, do they understand what the SDGs are? What are they? Because when we have these particular discussions, to a point it sounds very elitist. It's very policy driven, it's up there, but to the person who it's actually meant to be, how would you simplify what the SDGs are? And how do we also make them cool for people to actually just say, okay, I actually understand this, and how do we localize it to a language that every person can be able to understand so that they take ownership of it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, maybe if I start maybe learning to say these words in Kiswahili also, because
Yes,
to
and you can-
localize it
yes,
means
yes,
you
and-
have to also speak the local language
For
when
sure.
it comes to sustainability.
So let's look at, yes, how we what you think.
That's interesting, and maybe that's the challenge, or also maybe a challenge to myself to think through. You raise a very important question. We could be running an agenda out there that people don't even understand, and yet some of them form the future generations to come, the youth, right? To do it, basically, if I was to describe sustainability to a local person, I'm even challenged right now because I don't even know how to say it in Kiswahili. And
Yeah.
yet, that is supposed to be the main language in my country. But if I was to say it, I would say sustainable development goals are the only way that you will secure the future for those who are to come. So it is basically a development strategy that makes you think not about yourself, but others. That's how I would put it. So if I was to make it as local as it is, I would try and touch into the hearts of different. So you see, you have to divide the target groups though. But if I was to speak to a community of mothers, I would talk about the idea that we have to think better for our children. If I was to speak to fathers, I would talk about the idea of leading also, because they're also leaders just as, women are. The idea of leading, that your household, right, cares not just for what you guys will eat today, but tomorrow, right? Plan better. Let me just put it like that. Actually, now that's the word. Sustainability is just, let's plan better. Your finances, about your economy, about the society, about access to the normal the usual basic needs, the normal the gritty details also. What I would define is just plan better. Let me just.
And I guess also and I like the way you put it, plan better. It's the way you have a household, you budget for that particular household. And to know that your actions, I'm guessing, then have a bit of ramifications beyond, that.
Yeah.
So yes, so I guess then that makes sense. So, but then do you feel that is a gap? Is there a huge gap? Is that a gap that is there?
That is a huge gap, and that's why I love what you're doing, like what you've decided to start with Beyond Planet, because it's basically making it known to people, right, that they need to care for the environment, they need to plan better. It's hard talk, but it's the truth. It's a warning, but it's not a warning. There's really a huge gap, and that's a gap that governments should take on. They should be, as much as we are trying to run, and we know we are almost getting to the target year. We should also have budgets on the side that just are talking about creating awareness on what these SDGs are. And I understand that sometimes it might look like it's far-fetched, or it doesn't concern us. Some people will say things like, oh, climate change doesn't concern Africa, or because we know we don't have too much carbon emissions, the industry, and there's a lot that people will say, and those are discussions that we should have. Those are dialogues that we should have, and people who have more knowledge should be in spaces or given the opportunity to speak out. So that's why I really appreciate what you're doing, and there should be more of this, even to the common citizen. And county governments should be given more mandate with this. And I understand it's a tricky thing altogether, but this is a very serious communication gap. And it will also make us be in spaces where we are also analyzing data. It's like, for example, the water sector. If today you ask a government agency or a government entity how many boreholes have been dug in Kenya, they might not have the number precisely, specifically. There's an estimate. But you see, if you are looking at it as what are the carbon credit conversations. When you're talking about to dig a borehole, how many trees should you plant around it to make sure that you are not, destroying the water reserves, the water table, and everything else? Like the things like that. Once you're in the community, you'll know what to do when you're interacting. You'll know and collect data. You'll see where the challenges are. Because now sometimes I feel like we're just speaking from a policy level, and it's more up here, but it hasn't gotten to the grassroots as it should. But if you ask me, there's a lot of work to do, and we need to do this now. Yeah.
From what you've said, I think the idea is that we can be able to break down this particular, conversation to when you tell someone not to litter. We know, most people know in a way it is not good to litter. But why is it not good to litter? What does it mean beyond yourself being caught littering? You know what I mean? And I think that's the reason, because I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and I think they were greatly involved in the COP, the COP arrangements and so on. But then, the conversation that takes place before the person who is in public transport, who is in a matatu, who is walking down, before they understand that is actually a conversation meant for them, there's a huge disconnect. And I appreciate and thank you for your kind words, because that's one of the reasons that we really are spirited to be able to have this particular show, to break down that particular communication gap, and to break down that particular that knowledge gap, and to bestow ownership to what then people would say right holders or the beneficiaries who are actually on that particular aspect.
Yeah, and if you're talking of litter, there's like a lot to talk about also. Let me tell you, I can speak about sustainability all day. Like, I see the challenges, sometimes I see the gaps. For example, I don't want to say where we are sitting, but let me just give an example of a street.
Yes.
If you're walking along Kileleshwa area, and you're going round, even up to State House Road, allow me to critique, because this is like supposed to be a very clean area. The middle class, upper class, the opulence, people are living there who are supposed to be comfortable. Fine, the place doesn't get so much litter, but we have people walking there every day to work. Some are doing exercises. I just want you, the next time you're driving there, count how many litter bins are there. There's none.
Wow.
There's none. Like, I walked around one day and I wondered, what is going on here today? And you see, there's a river just there next to Arboretum. People are throwing, there's a lot of litter, destroying the river, and things like that. And you get to other countries that have moved way ahead in terms of collecting litter. And from the household level, they know to divide the litter. So if it's plastic, put it in a yellow bin there. If it is organic waste, put it here. If it is anything that can be recycled, put it there. And then when you take the trash out, literally, you know that this is organic waste and there's a place to put it, and there is plastic waste and there's a place to, and that now encourages a level of recycling, reusing, rebottling, and it protects the environment. It's you don't need to produce 1,000 bottles when you can recycle. It protects about.
And even what is recycling to that particular person? You know what I mean? And what is actually recycling, and what is the benefit of recycling? Because then I believe that if we have to achieve what is meant to be achieved in now what we are calling the decade of action until 2030, which is even closer home, what we call Vision 2030, a lot of ownership has to take place, and a lot of also breaking it down. Why do you do this? How does it then impact you? How does it then affect you as well? Because, and understanding what does it then recycle, all those things. For example, for you, what are you doing from where you sit as a sustainability manager, Wilo, and you deal with farmers, you deal with different people who are using your pumps? How is that message of sustainability broken down from just a document to the person who's actually seated there on the ground, who will actually be able to get your pump? Because that's how then you make money, right?
Yes, that's true.
So how do you do that?
How do we do that? So we have the awareness. Okay, one thing that I pride myself about also working with Wilo is the idea that they are pioneers in different things. And that has led them to be pioneers when it comes to energy efficiency. So digitalization of our solutions and making our pumps more modern. I would be just let me speak technically for just a second.
That's okay.
There is the idea of motor efficiency, right? The type of motor efficiency you choose, of course, that also depends on whether it's large scale or small scale. The type of motor efficiency you use will reduce the amount of energy you consume. When you reduce the amount of energy you consume, it means you are not using a lot of Kenya power, electric energy. You're not emitting a lot of carbon to the environment. Let's just put it like that. So when we are selling our pumps, basically, and nowadays, we are trying to really educate locals. We are trying to educate even engineers, consultants. There's a lot of, there's a knowledge gap that exists, which we realize that we are trying to really promote in the industry today, which is energy efficiency. We realize not just the farmers, but even water utility companies. Yeah? I don't want to mention names because it's not,
Sure.
yeah, but water utility companies spend a lot of money just for electricity,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yet they can go green, yet
Yes.
they can use less. If they can't go green, then they need to use electricity, which is okay. They need to select technology that is enabling them to spend more on electricity, and at the same time you also protecting the environment. You get. So we try to create such awareness around our pumps, our solutions, where we are going digital, so that you're able to look at from your phone. You're able to check how much water have you consumed today, how much electricity can you consume today. Is that a lot? Then you can be able to strategize and see maybe what can I do better. Maybe if you change, and for example, we realized that we have so many old pumps. Somebody installed them years back, right?
Yes.
And they're still working, but they use so much energy to just push water at a short distance. Let me just put it simply like that.
And the ripple effect of that is just if you get it and it's in data,
it continues, yes,
it's the
yeah,
carbon and everything around it is terrible.
The ripple effect is terrible. So we're also trying to promote that, and we have, of course, solar solutions as well, so that we're able to also support a farmer, of course, who doesn't have access to electricity. But then they want to produce water for irrigation. We have all the solutions, and we try to really promote sustainability in every aspect of our products. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. Anything you want to mention? Because I was going to delve into the bit of what is even, you talked about carbon footprint and all those other things, but then maybe we can take it up on another conversation.
Okay.
Because it's a pretty technical subject.
Yeah, it's technical
but
subject.
there's a time I went up country, and you get these women who are now planting trees.
Yeah.
But then they're just planting trees. Maybe they are saying, hey, there's something called carbon trading that we are being told we might benefit from.
Oh.
You understand?
Yeah.
But to the point of they actually don't understand, because what's the difference between me planting this particular tree and planting another tree? You understand? So I think that's a conversation, as you're saying. I don't know whether you might have some input in it, even, in that.
I guess the idea of tree planting also, as you said, has come to be, for me, they say when good news or bad news is being spread, in communications, let me put it like this, we say bad publicity or good publicity, it's still publicity. You get, whether people are planting trees because they think they will benefit or not, they are planting trees, and that's value add to our environment and our society. And I love that the idea about reporting on impact, and that's also something corporates should do. That's something Wilo does very well. When we release every year sustainability reports, and we're talking about how we've advanced each year to, of course, bring out the idea of how we've contributed to sustainability. And we've won awards as well. EcoVadis Platinum, we're getting such recognition just because of taking in such steps. But then there's a good idea that I'm coming to learn now to understand. There's a lot of experts out here who are able to calculate for people about, what's their carbon footprint, and maybe that's the better way to approach when we're trying to plant trees, to know which activity, the way they say if you buy land in Kenya and it has trees on it, it's more expensive, because if you want to use it for something else, there are things like that. And like such policies are good to protect our trees. Or they tell you if you cut one, you have to, plant, is it 4 now? I think 4 trees. So such policies are good, but then it will make sense so that as industries are growing, as we are approaching and we're doing more community outreach and everything else, we're able to know what we are contributing.
Yes.
And I also learned of a new technology recently about solar. So you can install solar panels. This I learned from also us installing solar panels at our assembly plant, that you can be able to monitor now by just using this technology, how many trees you've planted or you've saved to the environment today. So I think we should also leverage on that as we're doing our campaigns, as we're going to community, get these experts on the ground who will tell you what are you really contributing to. And that needs to also be be put in the mind of the young people as well as the women and men who are also planting, to understand, like, wow, the science behind it, but also the idea of what this would, of course, what this means for future generations. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts to what we've been discussing?
Oh,
that you might want just to pick up on.
Okay, we've spoken about women and we've spoken about different SDGs. So my last words would be for youth and women, just people like me as well. Let us just keep investing in ourselves, coming to appreciate that, and to just know that we can never know everything and we've never reached there, and it's just a continuous journey. So just on that journey and do what you need to do to keep on and developing yourself. For the SDGs, I would say everyone has a role to play. It's not policymakers, it's not you with your podcast now and a channel that talks about sustainability. Everyone in their own capacity has a role to play. The idea of don't litter, that's an individual,
For sure.
choice and decision. So everyone has a role to play, and let's not leave it to the others to do. We are the others, we are all together, and we are all living, and we need to leave this world a better place for those to come. And even as we are living now, just to live responsibly. Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Christine, thank you so much. The Beyond Podcast Show celebrates people like you who are contributing something towards sustainability of this great planet.
Yeah.
Asante sana.
Asante sana. You're doing good. Just
thank you.
Keep inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Christine.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.